Hi everyone, after weeks of hard work, I'm excited to finally share with you my first Blender add-on, Shine 3D Tools. I create this add-on to save you time, simplify tasks, and to have all the important tools in a single location, in the viewport. No more jumping between panels or memorizing complex shortcuts. In this video, I will show you all the features and buttons, explaining exactly how they work and how they can help you focus more on creating and less on the technical stuff. If you are looking to make your experience of Blender faster and easier, stay tuned because you're going to love this tutorial. Even so, if you don't buy this add-on, don't worry, I'm sure you will learn new things about Blender. And before we start, I want to mention that I will be adding new features to Shine 3D Tools in the future. For this reason, some updates won't be in this video. But don't worry, I will make new videos to show you the latest features and improvements. And now let's see how this add-on works and what it can do for you. Once you install the add-on, in the panel Add-ons in Preference, you will find My Add-on in the right panel of the viewport, pressing N. If you go here, Shine 3D Tools, and as you can see, My Add-on have different panels with easy names to know more or less exactly where you're going to find in each group. And these panels can change the location, just clicking here and dragging to change the position. So maybe you prefer this one on the top, or in the bottom, or where you want. I want to tell you an extra tip. Once you have the panels as you want, if you want to see always this add-on by default when you open Blender, just leave it like that, showing the add-on, and just go here in File, Default, Save Start File. Overwrite, and now every time you open Blender, you will find this open, as you can see right now. Okay, let's start with the first panel called Render. If we open this panel, we're going to find options about rendering. For me, the most important options. So, one thing I find really annoying is that if you want to change the name of your project, usually what you have to do is to go here and scroll down and click here. Basically, you have to click exactly here. And I find this really annoying. And also, if you want to change the folder, you need to click here. And if you want to change the format, click here, etc. So, what I did is to add a box to change really fast the name of your project, of your video, or whatever. For example, let's call this tutorial. And this button, as it says, is going to render your project if you're going to do an animation in MP4. So with this button, it's going to set really fast all the format and coding. So let's click here and see it. Once I click, the name changed, as you can see, tutorial, and the format now is this one with an encoding of this one, codec, this one, and high quality. So this button changes the name and render your project in this format. And really important, always the output by default will be the desktop. So I find really easy to just export your video in the desktop and later you drag your video where you want. And if you don't like this preset, you can go here and change whatever you want. Now, let's see what more we have. As you can see here, it says ray tracing. By the way, if you don't see these names, remember you can open this to see better the names. So ray tracing is a feature for Eevee and basically enable the reflection of the light. So here I have this object, this floor, and this light. But if I want to see the reflection of the light, I just activate this. And now you can see the reflection is projected in the object. So this feature is just to activate really fast this, instead of going here in render and here. And transparent, what does transparent? As the name says, basically it activates the background transparent. So if you want to export this image with an alpha channel, for example, let's go to render image. Now, as you can see, thanks to transparent, we can activate or disable this. And these samples is just the samples of the rendering, the important samples. So is this number. So from here, you can change really fast the number of samples of your project. And something really important, if we change the rendering engine to cycles, we are going to lose ray tracing because ray tracing is only for Eevee. And this, we have it because it's the same. But the number of samples, don't worry, will be 4 cycles. So this number is this number. So really fast, you can change how many samples do you want here for your projects. Okay, now let's see the most important panel of my add-on, Add Tools. As the name says, is tools to add things. And you will think that maybe it's a panel, but no. If you open this, there is more panels. So this is the core of my add-on. This is to speed your workflow. As you can see, there is easy names to understand more or less what you're going to find in each group. So let's start with the first one, Object. If we open this subpanel, we're going to find tools to add, for example, mesh, empty, and other options. So this one is basically the most important mesh objects. So with a single click, you can create this type of objects. Now, another important thing that always will work is with empties. So here you have two buttons to add this empty or an empty like a sphere. However, there is a hidden feature. For example, if you have an object, and let's say it is there, and the object is selected as active, like right now, and if you click here or here, look, the empty will be exactly in the location of the object. So later, it's easier to parent it. Look, let's do it again with the other button, with this one, and as you can see, the empty is there. However, if you don't have any object selected, like right now, when you click here, it's going to be in the middle of the scene. Now, as you can see, there is a third button that says Bone, and basically is to work with armatures, with bones. So this button adds an empty in the bone location that you select. For example, I have this character with this animation, and what I want is to attach an empty in a part of this body. So to use this button, what you have to do, first of all, is to select the armature and go to pose mode, because you cannot select a bone in object mode. So let's go to pose mode, and now to see all the bones, I recommend you to go here and activate this. And now, for example, maybe I want an empty in this bone. So I select this bone and I click bone. And now, as you can see, we have an empty in the location of the bone, always in the bigger part. So here. By the way, I recommend you that if you want to make the empty smaller, don't do it from pose mode, because this is going to happen, as you can see. So just come back to object mode and now make it small. And as you can see, we have an empty attached to this bone. So if I play this animation, you can see that the empty is following the animation. So really fast, you can go to pose mode and add as many empties as you want. And if we press play, you can see that all the empties is following this animation. Now below we have parent, and basically is to parent really fast two objects. So let's say, for example, I have this object and I want to parent these two objects to this one. So I'm going to select making this active. So these ones are the children. And now if I click here, it's going to be parent to this object. So if I move this object, both objects, as you can see, are parent. And if you want to disable this parent, so to unparent, then select all and click here to break, to clear the parent. As you can see right now, it doesn't follow. So really easy, you can parent objects with these two features. And what is this that says restriction? Basically, first of all, this button is really easy. It's just to disable an object in the render. So if you click here, it's the same that clicking any object here. So with this, you can see if it's going to be rendered or not. But this for me is the most important, to disable an object. This is to make, for example, if you don't want to click an object by mistake, for example, maybe I want to select this, but I click in the light and I'm like, oh, I don't want to click in the light. I want the light to be like this and not be selectable. So just select the light and click here. And now the light cannot be selected. So you can select objects, for example, this one, and disable this. As you can see, this one is disabled too. No, sorry, this one disabled. And as you can see, the only object selectable is this one. And if you want to make an object again selectable, because here you cannot do it, then select the light, for example, and click here. And now this object is selectable. So basically, this is the same like going here and activate this. So it's just this restriction, where you can disable the selection of any object. But I find that it's easier just to have it here. After the group object, we have the second group called curve, buttons related with curve. So on the top we have two options to create the most important objects as a curve. A cycle, as you can see, and then we have this one called empty. What is this called empty? Is an empty like this once? No. An empty is a bezier. So why you call this empty? Because it's a special button. Because usually when you want to design your own curve, what you usually do is to go to curve, select bezier, and no once use this default design, right? So usually what we do is to go to edit mode, select everything, delete all the vertices, and then select, for example, this tool or this one, and design your own design, right? So I thought, why instead of doing all these steps, I do something that is faster? So basically, this creates an empty bezier. That means if I click here, it's going to create a bezier curve, but we are going to be already in edit mode, and the most important, everything will be deleted. That is why it's called empty. So the only thing you have to do is to select a tool and start drawing. As easy as that. So let's do it again. I click here, and now I want to work with this tool. And I come back to object mode, and as easy as that. As I say, this add-on is to work faster. Now, as you can see, we have this red button here. What is this? This is the curve objects in the scene. So it's a list. For example, let's add more cycles or more empties. By the way, if you want to add more empties, you have to go out of this group, remember. So this is to select really fast any curve that you have in the scene, as you can see. And in red, it will tell you this object is selected. So it's just a list. If you delete everything, it's going to be cleaner, as you can see. Now, what does camera curve? As the name says, it adds a camera in a curve. So for example, let's add an object and let's add a cycle. And I want a camera in this curve because I want to make an animation showing this object. So the only thing I have to do is to select a curve, and if you don't have any camera and you click here, it's going to create a camera and add two constraints to follow this object, and also it's going to create an empty that is going to track this empty. So let's click here and bam, we have a camera and we have an empty called camera target. So this empty, that now you can see better here, is what is going to track the camera, as you can see. So it's easier to decide where you want to focus the camera. If you want it in the middle of the object, just leave the empty there. So basically, if we click the camera, you can see that this button adds a constraint, two constraints, follow path and track to. Also, if you have already a camera, so let's delete all this and let's add a camera, then what you have to do is to select the camera and the curve. So the camera has to be passive. It's there, as you can see, and if you click here, it's going to use this camera. If you don't have any camera, then it's going to create a new camera. Now, there is an important thing you have to know. When you click any curve, look at here. It's going to appear this, animation. What is this? This is to move, to animate the curve when we have an object. So now that we have a camera, if we select a curve and we click here, we can move the camera. We can animate this. Let's select 0 to see the camera view, and thanks to this, I can create really fast this animation. And you can add any keyframes like usually we do. So remember, to see this, you need to select a curve. If not, it's not going to appear. And then we have the same, but with an object. So sometimes you don't want to use a camera that follows a curve, but maybe you want to use an object. So let's say I want this object to follow this curve. So let's select an object and a curve. Remember, the object has to be passive and this active. And now I click here, object add curve. And basically it adds a constraint to follow this curve. And thanks to this, if we select the curve, we can do the same. We can make the object follow the curve. Now, as you can see, the object is not following perfectly the curve, the rotation. So to fix this, select the object and you have this option, follow the curve. That basically is the option of the constraint, this one. So if you click here, it's faster. click here, and now the object is following the curve, as you can see, in the perfect rotation. And if you don't like the rotation, just change the rotation, like usually we do. You can add, for example, 180 degrees. Now let's see the third group called light. As the name says, is everything related with the light, so it's really easy to understand what you're going to find here. And for me, it's one of my favorite parts of this add-on. Now, before we start with this row, let me show you this. What means wall? Wall is a slider of the strength of the light of the wall. So if you click and drag, for example, to the right, you're going to make the scene brighter. If you move it to the left, you're going to make it darker or 0. So this slider is the same like going here and clicking here. So if you want to make the scene dark, just click here to the left. Now, we need some lights, right? So here, the first 4 buttons is the 4 types of light that we can create in Blender. However, these ones are a bit better than the default lights. And let me show you how. So let me show you, for example, a default light, like point. And usually, when we create a light, always they are in the middle. And for me, this is a problem because always we put the lights on the top, like in a real wall. So we need to do this extra step, like moving the light on the top, right? So this is one problem. But the second problem, as you can see, always they have a little power. So we need to increase the power to see an effect. So I thought, hey, you know what? My lights, my 4 lights, always will be on the top, in 4 meters in Z. And also will have more power. So if you click any of these lights, for example, let's create a point light. As you can see, it's already on the top in 4 meters. As you can see here, 4 meters, and have already 200 of power. So we can see better the power of the light. You can change it here, but we have already some power. So it's much better. You lose less time. Now, as you can notice, this light have a text. If you want to see it better, I'm going to select this view. And why it have a text? First of all, this text is attached, parented to the light. So if you move the light, as you can see, the text follow the light. So I thought that this would be really useful when you have a lot of lights and you don't know which type of light is, because sometimes it's hard to see which type of light is if we don't see it here. So that's why we have a text. But maybe you're thinking, but this is really annoying because I don't want to render this. First of all, this text is not selectable. So don't worry, you're not going to select this text by mistake, as you can see. And second, this text is not going to be rendered. So by default, maybe you're thinking, what is the text? Remember, when a text, one object is parent, is inside an object. So it's inside the light. So as you can see, the text by default is not going to be rendered. So don't worry, you will not see this text on the render. It's just for you. It's like a note. And if you don't like this text and you want to delete it, just select the text and delete it. So basically, each light that you create, for example, the sun, have its name. Sun, spot, and area. Now, an important thing that you have to know, and maybe you notice, is that when we have a light selected, like right now, we can see faster controls of the light instead of going here and clicking here. So basically what I add is the color of light, as you can see. Let me select this view to see better. The color, the power, and some features depending of the type of light. Now we work with an area. So we have the size of this light, as you can see. But if we have, for example, a spot, we have the radius, as you can see. Sorry, before I wanted to say a point. If we have a spot, we have the spot size, that is this, the spot size, the blend, but to see the blend, we need an object. So let's add a floor. And now you can see that the blend is, how sharp is this? Look, it's basically these features, and then the radius. So depending of the light, you will find different options here. Like in the group of curve, do you remember that we have this list of all the curve in the scene, and in red is showing you the object selected? We have the same for the lights. So if we have different lights, it will appear here, as you can see in this panel. And you can click and see with light are you working. It's easier with this list and the name and the red color. Now, after these 4 types of light, we have this button that says 3P. What is this? This is the basic 3-point lighting. So if you have an object selected and you click here, you're going to add 3 lights of area, as you can see right now, with each name. So key, fill, and back. Key always is the main light, the most powerful, as you can see, 200. Fill is half of the main, the key, and back is the backlight and will be less. As you can see, with this simple setup, you can create this really cool effect and change the lights really fast of each light. And also, these lights, when you select an object, will be parented. So if we move this, as you can see, let me select, for example, this view, all the lights are parented to the object. If you apply this button and you don't have any object, it will create an empty. So all the lights will be parented to this empty. And as we know, sometimes we don't want to work with this type of lights. What we want is an environment light. So to use an HDRI. So to do this, you have this button that is like a world. And if you click here, it will open your browser. And the only thing you have to do is to select your texture, your image. I'm going to select this one. And that's all. As easy as that. And as you can see, now we have this light. And the best part is that also you have this slider to rotate the light, to rotate the image. So if I click here, as you can see, I can rotate the direction of the light and the background. So basically, this button, it opens the shade editor in the world and it adds all this. And this slider is just this slider. And if you want to change the background, then just click here, select another image, and that's all. As easy as that. And remember, you have here the power of the background. Another important thing that I thought about it is that after Blender 4.2, we don't have anymore this button in Eevee called Bloom. We need to do some things to add glow. We have to go to the compositing, activate this, add a no glare, and do more stuff. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it all with one button. So now the only thing you have to do, if you want to add glow, is just click here where it says glow. And boom, we have already, if we go to compositing, a glare node, info glow. You can change this in bloom if you want. And also what does is that activates this in always. So now if you add a lot of power in the light, let's select this area and let's increase this, you will see that we have this glow effect. So the only thing you have to do is just to click once here. That's all. As easy as that. Okay, as you can see, this was a lot of things to explain, but this is really powerful to play with the lights, and lights always is really important for any scene in Blender. Now let's jump to material group, material panel. As the name says, is everything related with the material. So, first of all, if your object doesn't have any material, then just click here, add material. And this will add a material that we can see it here. And this is the main features to see the material. Let me select this view. So base is just the base color. Then we have the alpha to make it transparent. And here you have the render method. So if you want to see this noise, you can select blended to make it faster. Or you can leave it with this one. And then we have the emission. So the emission is to make it glow, for example. So let's increase this. And now, let's select this view. It's emitting light. The way I just delete the glow, so let me add again the glow. And this slider is to increase the emission strength, as you can see. And this is the color of the emission. So once you add an emission, you can change really fast the color here. If you don't have any emission, then use the base color. Another feature that you have to know, if you use a color ramp, so let's use a color ramp, now instead of the base color, we can see the colors of our color ramp. So for example, if I add more colors, you will see that we have all the colors here to change really fast the colors of the color ramp. Well, let's see which colors we have. And if you delete this, then we will have the base color or whatever you have connected. Now in the section of materials, we have also this button that says image and materials with a bin each one, because it's to clean all the textures, that image that we don't use, and all the materials that we don't use. So let me add you an example. Let's, for example, duplicate this, and I don't know, let's change the color, make another copy, select blue, make another copy, select pink. So now we have a lot of materials here that we don't use. The one that we're using right now is this one. So if you click here, it's going to delete all the list of the materials that any object is not using. So right now we are using this one, the pink, and if I click here, look, I come back here, I have only one single material. So don't worry, all the materials that you're using won't be deleted. But at least all the materials that are stacking, and you don't use, now you can clean it with this button. And this is the same with the image that we use. So for example, let's add any image. So as you can see right now, I just load a lot of image in my project. And right now I'm using this one. So sometimes you have a big list of materials, textures that you don't use. So this button is going to clean all the textures that any object is not going to use. So let's select, for example, this one. And if I click here, as you can see this text, it says, for image not being used have been deleted. So if I come back here, now you can see that I only have this one. So remember, this is to clean all the image that you don't use, and this to clean all the materials that you don't use. Okay, now let's jump to the next group called text. This is really easy, it's really short. We have only 2 buttons and an empty box, and it's all about text. So if you don't have any object selected and you want to create a text really fast, only type here whatever you want. For example, let's write subscribe. And now if I click in that text, it's going to create a text with this word. And also this text won't be in the middle. As you can see, it has 2 meters in Z, and also have already 90 degrees in this axis. So it's perfect for this perspective. And as you can see, this text is a normal text, it's selectable, so you can make it bigger, whatever, and also will be rendered. So don't worry, it's just a normal text. Now, however, if we have, for example, an object selected, so let's add, for example, a cube, and now I go to text and I write, this is a cube, and I select this object before creating a text, then it's going to parent a text to the object. So let's see it. As you can see, now the text is parent. Why I do that? Because I want you to use it to add notes. So by default, this text won't be rendered. It's selectable, so don't worry about this. Look, I can make it bigger and I can change the position. As you can see, it's parent, but by default won't be rendered. So it's just like a note. Now, if you want to make it rendered, remember, just click here. You can go here if you want and activate this, or just select this, and remember, in object you have this button. So it's a faster way to parent a text to an object. And then what we have is this button called rename object. And it's really easy. It's just to change the name of any object. So let's say, for example, that I have this cycle and I want to call it path, because it will be the path of my camera. So I don't want to see bezier cycle. I don't want to see this ugly name. So instead of clicking here and typing, just go here and write something, path, and click here. And as you can see, it changed really fast the name of any object. So when you have a lot of objects or different lights or different copies of objects, just click here and write whatever you want to change the name. So 2 buttons to create text and to change the name of any object. Okay, perfect. Now let's see the last group that is really easy. It's just when you do tutorials like me, or if you want to explain something. It's called notes, and basically it has the option to draw. So it's the same like going in T and clicking here. But sometimes I find really annoying to press T and click here and then do this. I know this is really easy, but what I find really annoying is to delete this. So what I did is to add this button that just clean this. So whatever you do, it cleans really fast. And instead of coming back here to change the tool, you have it already here. So with this panel, you don't have to open this. Look, I'm going to click here, do some notes, whatever, clean this, and click here, and I have already the selected tool, so I'm not going to write anything else. So if you want to make notes, this is just a group to create notes. Okay, as you can see, this was a big group. add tools, but it's really powerful, and I hope now you understand better how it works, and maybe you think it's useful for you, or you learn something new. So let's jump to the next ones. Don't worry, now they are shorter. You can leave this open or close, however you want. Now let's go to animation. What this is about? This is about animating, about keyframes. So if we open location, it will show you the location of an object. However, if you don't have any object selected, it will say not active object. Actually, with all these panels, it will say, hey, you don't have any object selected. So if you want to see the features, select an object. Let's add an object. And now if we come back to location, basically is the location of an object. So these sliders is just to change the location of an object. And maybe you're wondering, why you add this here if I have it here? Because my point is to avoid time jumping between panels. I didn't add all the panels because then there is no point to add all this here if you have already here, but I thought the most important one, the location, it will be here to create animations. So you can change this and animate it like usually we do with keyframes or whatever. Now, if you want to delete any keyframe, you have this button. This button is to clear all the keyframes that an object have. So if you click here, boom, it deletes everything. Well, all the keyframes about transform. So location, scale, rotation, etc. And reset is to reset the position of the object. So sometimes you want the object to be in the middle. Just click here and that's all. And you can apply this with different objects. So let's make copies, for example, of this. And if I want to move all these objects in the center, just click here, reset, and all the objects are in the center with 0, 0, 0. Easy peasy, right? To change the location, to reset the position, and to clear the keyframes. Now we have this called keyframe. What this is about? Let me delete 2 Susans and stay with one. So if we select an object, here we have a different panel to add keyframes. I just thought, I don't want to waste time going here, going there. I want to make it easier for you, for me, for everyone. So this is the same like changing here or opening this and doing this. So with this, you can move this, but also what you can do is to tag exactly in which moment you want to jump. So let's go to 1. And this button is to add a keyframe in the transform. It will add a keyframe in the 3 main transform, location, rotation, and scale. So let's say I want to create a simple animation. I just click here. And as you can see, if I set this object, it's adding a keyframe in the 3 main transform options, location, rotation, and scale. So what I can do, instead of moving this, if you want, maybe I want to say, okay, after 10 frames, I'm going to change this in this axis, or something like that, and insert another keyframe. And I make it bigger to make it easier to click in this button. And then let's move it here, or actually what we can do is to select 20 and move it manually. And now insert another keyframe. As easy as that. So now we have 3 keyframes, as you can see here, and also here I have these buttons that are these ones that I find really annoying to go here. I know there is shortcuts, but my point is to not remember all the shortcuts. So if you want to see the keyframes that you have, just click here, Previews, or Next. Now, another interesting thing. If you want to see the motion path, here I just add a motion path. So when you have an object with keyframes, if you select the object and you click here, and you select Calculate, it's going to show you the motion path. So this feature is the same like selecting the object and going here, motion path. And if you make a change, so let's say that I want to change this and make it, for example, here, and let's add another keyframe. Now, if you want to see the update, then click Update. And we can see better the motion path of the object. And if you want to clear this or not see it, then just select Clear. That's all. So this option, this subpanel, is to show you the motion path. And if you want to use it, just keep it closed. That's all. Okay, let's continue and go to camera. This panel is about camera and it's really easy. If you don't have any camera, it will tell you not active camera phone. So if you want to add a camera really fast, just click here, Add Camera, and it will add a camera in the middle. Now, if you want to set a view really fast, so for example, this one, of course you can do Ctrl-Alt-0. But remember, my point is to not remember all the shortcuts. So what you can do, instead of doing this, is just click camera to view. And that's all. It's the same. So you can change the perspective and say, I like this one, camera to view. Now this, if you open this, it says the word. This is a slider to make what is out of the camera black. So you can focus what is inside of the camera. So with this slider, you can make it darker or show everything. Now, if this doesn't make effect, it's because you need to enable this. Remember, without this, it's not going to work. Now, another thing that I use a lot, and maybe you use it, is when we export for social media. So by default, we have this resolution, that is full HD, right? So this button is to set this resolution, as you can see here. But maybe I want to export this animation or whatever you have for social media. So the only thing you have to do is to click phone. And basically, it changes the resolution, as you can see here, or if you leave the mouse here, to resolution of phone. So with this, you can change really fast the resolution. Okay, now let's continue and move to show. What is show? So, show. Let me delete the camera. I love show, I promise you. It's really easy. First of all, if you have an object and you want to focus this object, just click focus. So it will show you focus the object. Boom. As easy as that. I want to see this. I click focus. So whatever you select in your scene, if you play focus, it will go directly to this object. And if you select a lot of objects and select focus, it will center the view based in everything that you are selecting. Now, I really love this one, isolate. Okay, let's say that we have a scene with a lot of objects, or maybe an object with a lot of components like this car. So if you want to focus only one object, one part of this car, select this part of the car, for example, these mirrors, and select isolate. And basically, it will isolate these objects, as you can see. And if you click again isolate, it will show you again everything else. So for example, maybe I want now to see the lights. I click isolate, and I click again to show everything. And also what you can do is to select more objects. For example, this, and this. Isolate. Or maybe, I don't know, the doors and the four wheels, as you can see. So it's really easy to work and not to be distracted with the other components or objects in a scene. And remember that you have the button focus. So let me hide this, for example, and maybe I want to isolate this, and I select isolate, and now I click focus to show really close the object. And then what is this? And why this is blue? This is to hide, to show the floor and the axis. So if you want to see everything clean without this, then disable this. Look, as easy as that. It's basically doing this, going here and disable this, this, and this. But I thought it would be easier to have a big button to make like everything clean. Because sometimes, you have lights. So let's add, for example, let's go to light and add the 3 lights. And I want to see the lights. I know that if we go here, we can make everything clean, but we don't see the lights and I cannot select the lights. So I thought, you know what? I just want a big button that it will hide only the floor and the axis, and I can see everything else. And it's inside this because it's to show the floor or the axis. And then we have this attribute text and color that if you follow my channel, maybe you are familiar with that. This is for geometry nodes. So let's say we have an object like the default cube and we go to geometry nodes and let's create a geometry node and we select this, press Ctrl Shift and left click to activate the viewer node. And now, for example, if we add an index node, we want to see the index of each corner or each whatever you select here. Now to see this, what we have to do is to go here in overlays and activate attribute text. And if you want to show this color, then you have to go here and disable this. So basically, if you go here to show, these 2 options is to do this faster. Attribute text is to show the numbers, and this is to hide the color or to show it. That's all. This is just for geometry nodes. And also in this panel, in Show, we have a hidden feature that only appears when we work with armature. Do you remember before I said that if we want to add an empty to a bone, we have to go to Object and click here, but before we have to go in Pose mode. And if you want to show the bones, we have to go here and click here. So this and this, that this is just to hide the body, now you have it in Show. So if you are in Pose mode, as you can see, look, I'm going to select Object mode, look at here, now I'm going to select Pose mode, it will appear this faster. So with this, you can show faster the bones. And with this, you can control what you want to show, if everything or nothing. So remember, this feature only appears when you are in Pose mode. If not, it doesn't appear. And finally, before we finish, we have this panel that is called Shine 3D because it's to help you with my resources. So if you click here, it will open basically my YouTube channel where you have a lot of tutorials of Blender and geometry nodes to learn. So it's just to say, okay, what is the last tutorial he uploaded? Like 2 weeks ago, perfectly. That's because I've been working in this add-on, so that's why I have been 2 weeks without uploading. And then also you have this. So this is to filter my tutorials. So maybe you remember, there was a tutorial about trails and geometry nodes. So trails, geometry, nodes. And let's click here, and basically it will filter my videos. So it will show you, trails, geometry nodes. Oh, trails, geometry nodes. Oh, cool. So it's an easier way to filter. Maybe I think there was a tutorial about dot product. Let's check it. Let's see. Dot product. Perfect. So that's why I just add this here. And this is to open the pattern. So if you are a member of my Patreon, you can click here and you will go to my Patreon and you can download easily any project that is on my YouTube channel. So it's an extra if you want to learn more and if you want to download my projects on my Patreon that you can support me for $3. So I know it was a long tutorial, but I wanted you to show everything, how it works and how you can use it in your daily workflow with Blender. Actually, I was going to add more features that I'm already working, but I thought, hey, first of all, let's release this add-on, see the feedback, and in the future, I will do it in new videos. So if you're interested to buy this add-on to support me, you will have the links on the description. And also, if you have any problem, feedback, suggestion to add new feature, or any question, you can send me an email that you will find it on the description, or if you want, you can leave a comment on this video. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this video, you learned something new, even so if you don't buy this add-on, and thank you very much to everyone who will support this project. I hope you have a nice day and see you in the next tutorial.